All right, everybody joining us now on Setting the Pace. It's a reoccurring guest, but a guy we haven't talked to in a while is Ryan Hammer, the Hammer Man. So, Ryan, thanks so much for joining us. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. We just said it before I got on. I come this time of year every year. I think we talk about the draft prospects, the picks, which we might, but usually it's full off season mode. So this is different. I'm really happy for you guys. So
Living life. It feels good.
So, let's talk about this. Obviously, a really interesting matchup here in the NBA Finals. After game two, we're tied 1-1, heading back to Indianapolis. I think for me, the biggest thing that stands out is the Thunder have led for about 94 of the 96 minutes played, but the Pacers somehow escape with a victory in game one. Now that it's heading back to Indianapolis with a 1-1 series tied, what are your expectations for this series?
yeah, that's a big part of it. But that's also how the Thunder play, and that's also how you guys kind of play, as you know very well know. Yeah, no, I go back home. You minimum one win. Obviously, you cannot go down 3-1 going back to OKC. Then it's basically it is wraps at that point. The turnovers have been a concern for sure at times. Again, that's in part to your guys' style and their defensive style. That's kind of part of the game. But if you can eliminate big threats of theirs, forcing turnovers, especially on the perimeter, I think that's a massive point of it. I said you got to at least split, but I think you got to go win game three now, because then if you want to be able to have a chance to win this title before going back to OKC, because then it puts the pressure on them in game four, and even if you don't win it in that one, I think winning game three gives you a little more momentum, a little more balance.
Yeah, I think game three, not to say a must win, but you got to have it. At minimum, you got to split the next two games. But what can Indiana do to maybe like free up Tyrese Haliburton? That OKC defense is as advertised, and they have not let Haliburton or really this Pacers offense get into any sort of rhythm, play in transition, anything of that sort.
Yeah, it was super interesting when they came out with starting Case and Wallace game one. I love Case and Wallace. I think we've probably talked about him multiple times on this show. But they came out and I was like, oh my God, he's starting. And I was so excited for him. And then I was like, oh, they are really going after Tyrese like from the jump, and that's what they did. It's super smart. I know he needs the ball in his hands. I know he wants the ball in his hands. But they have guys like Siakam and guys in the front court on the wing can move the ball in transition, can push the ball that will get them down the floor faster. And I think open up spots in transition. You can run your sets. You can reset. And I think our boy Andrew Nemhard. I want to see more. I need to see him basically whoever the secondary perimeter defender it is that's going to be on him. Even if at times it is Casey Wallace or it is a Caruso or whatever, if they can play him as a full time one guard and then him and Tyrese can kind of more balance, I think that's beneficial.
One thing I've thought has been really interesting, Rick Carlisle has played a deep rotation for the entirety of this playoff run. However, the numbers are kind of staggering when you look at how it's been without at least one of Siakam, Halliburton and Turner on, or two of them on, I should say. I'm curious your thoughts because of the way that OKC plays such incredible defense. Do they need to make it a point of emphasis to at least have one of Halliburton and Nimhart on the floor at all times? Because I feel like too often when they get in these TJ McConnell, Ben Mathurin, Ben Shepherd lineups with Siakam and Thomas Bryant, like that to me is not going to cut it when you're trying to play against the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, I don't know the plus minus stats on in the off and on for certain guys, but I can imagine it's not great. Those things work against the Knicks. Those things might work against the Cavs. Like TJ McConnell last year also was a Knicks killer in that series, and like those guys can do that versus those teams. But this is like a pretty historically good defensive team that has been the best team in the league the entire season. So you definitely got to treat it different. Short answer, yes, 100%. You need a trustworthy ball handler.
Real quick, just before you reply, Facci here, I just want to say Kyle Taylor does a great job covering the Pacers for a lot of us Pacers fans here. He said with 2+ of Ty Miles or Pascal, the Pacers are plus 8.8 in the playoffs. With 1 or 0 on, they're minus 11.3. So that's a 20.1 net rating swing. So to me, it's just like I get Carlisle like trying to like stretch out these
Yeah.
these moments here, but this is the finals. You've got almost 2 days off in between every game. Game three and game four, there's only 1 day off, but I don't think you can really worry about that. You got to just play your best players.
No, and I'll just add one more. I'm a college basketball guy. Obviously, everyone knows that. This is such a college basketball series to me, not in terms of just the players on the floor, the styles. Like usually, you don't see such polarizing styles in the NBA at all, especially these succeeding in the playoffs and the finals, where it's like a Gonzaga versus Houston to me. It's that kind of thing, where both teams are great, and it's kind of like one's got to give. So to your point, trying to completely take them out of what they do is not going to work.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think for right now, you look at that Tyrese Haliburton, it's like it feels like it starts with him, and it's got to be. But through 2 games, not a free throw attempt. Through 2 games, averaging 6 assists to 4 turnovers. That is so unlike him for a guy that was averaging about 4.5 assists to per turnover, in the regular season. So, do you think maybe Tyrese needs to come out and be a little bit more aggressive than what he usually is, or is this, hey, continue to play your game and what got you here? Just maybe other members of the team just need to make the same amount of shots that they were making in previous rounds.
No, yeah, I think Gut says the former. Gut says get more aggressive, get to the rack, draw fouls, do anything, get to the free throw line and those things. But I also know that they're not going to win with just him doing that. It's not going to get them anywhere. And then back to the flip side, at the same time, he is the alpha, and he is even to win MVP in the Eastern Conference Finals, whatever. But he is the alpha and the superstar on the team. Like, and they are the underdog, the heavy underdog they have been. They need him to go off. They need him to go off like he has time and time again this playoffs for them to have a chance for you guys to have the chance to win this series. So I will go back to the former and say he's got to be aggressive.
SGA MVP has been incredible, but the others around him have been up and down in the playoffs. J-Dub not shooting a great percentage so far in the NBA Finals. Chet, I think, had a pretty poor game one, a lot better game two. What are you kind of seeing from those, second and third stars for the Thunder, and what do you expect from them on the road, a place where they haven't played as great?
Yeah, it's just crazy how many of them they have. Like you mentioned those two guys, but then there's 4 or 5 more who can step up. Aaron Wiggins had like a damn near perfect game. Like go Terps, but I mean, goddamn, it's wild the depth that they have where they can just interchange another guy for another guy. And I think that's the benefit. If J-Dub's not shooting well, that's fine. SGA is going to have 35, and Alex Caruso is going to have 20, and Aaron Wiggins is going to have 22. And like they interchange and they go back and forth. And credit to how they built their team, and without going all in and spending all their picks, they draft good players, they develop. Going on the road will be interesting for sure, especially them being so young, but they've done it just fine for the most part in the playoffs, so I wouldn't worry too much about it for them, but I assume the gold shirts are going to be on, right, in the stadium?
They better be.
Yeah, gotta be.
These are great like fan environments, and the Pacers, you guys have a great environment, so if anything is going to rattle them, it should be there, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think in this scenario, it's like, like Alex mentioned earlier, Indiana's only led for 6 seconds, 8, no, not 6 seconds, but it's like a minute and
2
50.
minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a minute and 54 to be exact.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. It's not much. But the fact that it's 1-1 going back home, I mean, what type of momentum could that be for the Pacers? Like, obviously a really great home team. Ironically, haven't won a game 3 yet. Do you look too much into that? They haven't won game 3s, or is this more, hey, you know what? This time around, it's 1-1 when you're at home. Don't take your foot off the gas compared to previous series where you might have been up 2-0 going back home.
Yeah, I think the latter. You don't overthink it too much. I think you guys have played similar to the same thing in the Knicks series, where like you have a ridiculous game one, you somehow get a win, and the Knicks and the Thunder again are super different teams in quality, so you're able to steal that win somehow in game two also in the Garden. But this is momentum, I think, for the Pacers for sure. You probably didn't expect it to be 1-1. You probably said, okay, maybe we can get a game, maybe, and you did right away. So then it's like all of a sudden the series completely gets flipped on its head because it's game one, and I think that changes how the Thunder think of things also. They're probably thinking they know this is a must-win of Game 3, just like how the Pacers are thinking about it. And that is interesting. I did not know they haven't won a Game 3, but that means that they're usually up 2-0 because they've won every series in 5, I think, right? So they're usually up 2-0 coming into a comfortable setting. They say, "Oh no, we lost Game 3," and then they just go on the rest.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's just like the other team's backs against the wall. Pacers feel a little comfortable, and now their back's kind of against the wall. Like, hey, if we don't get this win and defend home court, now we could be in big trouble because they did definitely, escape the first game with a victory. I mean, that to me is just one of the craziest wins I've seen of all time.
Is that crazier than the Knicks game one? No
it's
way.
Different levels because it's the finals, right?
Fair.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the finals, and you didn't lead till the shot was made, right? At least with the Knicks, you traded leads back and forth. They went on like a 17-run run, but they had an epic Knicks collapse. But how many times have we seen the Knicks collapse throughout their history? So it's the New York Knickerbockers. I mean, nobody expects them to do anything great. They always seem to fall and never really overcome what they should. I mean, they haven't beat the Pacers in a playoff series since 1999. So
it's crazy.
I'm just throwing that out there. But let's go back to this series here. Miles Turner really started getting something going there in that third quarter, got Chet into some foul trouble, started hitting some threes.
Yeah.
But other than that, I felt like his series against New York was not great. It was very mediocre. Kind of got played off the court with foul trouble and couldn't guard Towns for his life. And then in this series so far, has not really found his footing except for that one quarter. What does Indiana need from him in games 3 and 4, really, to kind of help them spread this Thunder defense out?
Yeah, I think it comes from Tyrese a lot because make Miles' life easier, and that's going to make everyone else's life easier because then you're starting to pull the front court guys, pull guys out of the paint, and then you're able to get paint touches from Tyrese and other guys in the team. So it's it because he can do, like you said, he showed in the third quarter. He's had a couple of games in the playoffs where he just goes lights out on fire, not like Aaron Nesmith level, but he gets there. So I think you need to make it easier for him and easy looks, which we haven't been seeing much of, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, and kind of on the flip side of that, the guy right next to him, Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam for the first 3 series was averaging, upwards of 50% from the field, upwards of 40% from 3-point range. So far through 2 games, kind of struggled a little bit. He's shooting 38.5% from the field, just 33% from three. Hasn't been great. Just 3 of 11 last game. Not a single made shot in the second half. Outside of the free throw line. What does Siakam have to do to really get it going? Because this is a guy that we have seen explode in some of these games, and obviously was the Eastern Conference Finals MVP that we mentioned.
Yeah, and I think it's funny we're talking about all this. We're like the offensive struggles for best offense in the league, and I think it's a testament to the Thunder, and I think it's a huge change for the teams you're playing in the Eastern Conference versus a team like this. Their style, their defensive quality and depth and length and versatility. And you're seeing a lot of the guys struggle. Where I think his answer is the same as Tyrese, where he's got to put the ball down and be aggressive again. Now Siakam, I feel like gets reckless sometimes when he forces it too much when he does that. But finding his moments to do that is going to be the way to go.
All right, let's talk about TJ McConnell and Ben Mathurin, 2 Arizona Wildcats for the Pacers bench. They need to be better. They've been okay in the playoffs. I feel like we've seen moments from them both, right? Maybe a little bit more consistency from TJ, but what do you think those 2 guys can do on the court together? Because they do bring a different element to this team, but they don't really provide the shooting that the Pacers rely on.
Yeah, it's funny you say that about like McConnell. You can trust him on the court. He's not playing great. You can still trust him to be on the court. Where Matherin is so hit or miss to me, and it's really been like him as a young NBA player so far, where it's like, how often can you trust him? How many minutes in a row can he play? Can he play big minutes in the game and sub in for on the wing for somebody? And I don't fully trust him in that yet, especially because of the shooting, like you're saying. I think he has to use his athleticism to put any kind of pressure because, I mean, there's no situation in anywhere in the world where he's not the best, at least tied for the best athlete on the court or in the room or whatever he is. So I think he needs to use that to do little things, crash the boards, defend hard as hell, cut off ball more, do little things where if he's not shooting the ball, it doesn't matter. Where TJ McConnell, to the point, like does little things where you can trust him on to still be on the court.
You're never going to shut down SGA. You're just not going to do it. We saw Nembhard make things tough for him at times in game 1, but then in game 2, we really saw OKC's role players excel. Guys like Caruso and Wiggins, played really well. Then you got far more production out of Chet. You got a better game out of just about everyone. I would say in terms of like the role players. For Indiana to win, do you think it's kind of, hey, SGA is going to get his, but you got to kind of stop and slow down everybody else?
I wish I had the answer for that, honestly.
I don't have it
If I
either.
did, the Thunder wouldn't be winning so easily every series except for until now. I don't know. I think you have to prioritize SGA, and you can't go that route because I think you'd rather let Aaron Wiggins shoot 80%, and you're like, well, he shot 80%, and then SGA, like you'd rather that happen than SGA put up 40, and you say, well, why didn't we defend and prioritize the MVP of the league? Like it's you don't want it to be that simple.
Yeah, I thought Caitlin Cooper brought up a really good point on her podcast with Samson Folk. I don't know if you watch any of Basketball She Wrote stuff, but I mean, terrific breakdown of what OKC did adjustment-wise. And one of the big things they did was the Pacers play that full court defense, right? And OKC was setting screens up much higher in the half-court set, and the Pacers were still trying to kind of fight through them instead of going underneath them, which was allowing them to kind of get some momentum going downhill, which then caused guys to help over at the nail, which then led to wide open shots for those guys. Because I felt like a lot of the shots that Wiggins made and Caruso made, they were wide open shots or just movement off the baseline. So If Indiana were to adjust that a little bit, do you think that they need to play up that tight? I mean, I understand playing full court, but when you're getting screened at half court or just like
Yes.
right inside it, what is the point of going over the screen to stop SGA when you could go under the screen and just try to funnel him a certain way?
Yeah, and it's harder because like I look back at Brunson and I remember so vividly how Nemhard guarded Brunson on screens, going over everything and making it so tough for him. But he similar foul drawer, or whatever. But he's a lot smaller, so it's different. And SGA getting downhill is a damn problem, and he's big as hell. I'm not sure honestly. I don't think you can step up that high because they're gonna burn you. Like they're good enough to just burn you if you give them too much space. They might pass out of it and play out of a high post or something like that. I'm not really positive, honestly, on how I would fix it because I watch SGA play and I watch what he does, especially in the mid range and outside the paint. And I just like I don't have answers for how to figure out how to stop them offensively because they're a defensive team for sure. But he's so good at what he does, getting to his spots, getting to the free throw line, and he's so intelligent and he's perfected a craft with the players that he is. So I just don't have the answer to that.
Yeah, I wish we had answers too. I mean, we have seen Indiana put up 43s basically in each of the last two games. Game one, it was a blistering 45% from the field. Game two, not so much, closer to about 35%. Do you think if Indiana is going to have any chance to win, this series, it's going to have to be having their role players catch fire again? We saw coming into this series
Mm.
some of the highest 3-point shooters in the playoffs were Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nemhard, and guys like Obi Toppin have caught fire at times. It might not be as sustainable, but do you feel that that is going to be like a major recipe for pulling this upset?
100%. And there are moments Obi is reminded me of like there are going to be cold moments. You're going to watch a couple of guys and be like, "Oh my God, please stop shooting the ball." But shooters have to shoot through it. Obi maybe not the shooter to shoot through everything, but like Neesmith and Nemhard, etc. Like they need to shoot through those issues if they have them. But 100%, I think that's how you guys have succeeded so far in the playoffs. Where of course the team is good and deserves to be winning the games because the way how good they are, and honestly since January, what basically the best team in the league, second best team in the league. But the shooters and guys need to catch fire because that's how you guys have gotten wins, but also stolen wins for sure. So
Yeah, last one for me here on just like this random series here before we get into the draft. I want to get your thoughts on the Pacers and the Thunder, like both teams differently, but one player from the Pacers, one player from the Thunder that you saw in college that maybe has exceeded expectations in the NBA. I mean, maybe you can take SGA out of it because he's the MVP, but give us some like, man, how they were in college, their projections to where they are now in the pros are not what I expected.
he hasn't played a ton, but in general, Ben Shepherd, I was just like I liked watching him in college a little bit. I just couldn't get there. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe he'll be in the NBA, maybe he won't. But last year was when in I think the Knicks series, and I was like, my God, Ben Shepherd is awesome. This guy is so good. I love Andrew Nemhard also, I will say. Everyone on social media that knows me knows that. But I did not expect him to be this good this quickly. I didn't expect me to be like, yep, he's literally Drew Holiday. Like he 100% is. But didn't expect that out of him. And on the Thunder side of things, I loved Kaysen. I love J Dub. Aaron Wiggins. Honestly, I'm a Maryland fan, and I loved Aaron Wiggins. I did not expect him to be firmly in an NBA rotation on a finals team and scoring 20 points in a finals game. Like not one bit at all. Even when he got drafted, even when he showed flashes. So I'm happy for him. So
Yeah, I guess one of my last question before we transition over to some draft talk is like, say you're the GM of the Thunder right now. Like, I don't know how you're gonna get that job from Sam Presti, but you're looking at this team. You're already in the NBA Finals. You still have all these draft picks. You got Nikola Topic, still hasn't played this year. Like that's like a really good potential draft pick. What do you do with these picks moving forward, knowing that you already have a great team, and it's tough for guys like Usman Jang to be able to crack a rotation right now, and that was a lottery pick.
yeah, it's a great question. I think there's two ways to go about it. If a Giannis or a top five player in the league, like consensus easy, became available, sure, I would probably make a splash if I was him, and I don't doubt that he would do that, even though people don't think he would. But I would never force it. I wouldn't force it for KD. I wouldn't force it for guys like that. At this point, like if say they win, right? It makes it even more of a question of what do you do? Because if they lose, it's like we got to make a 1-4 final move to go win a title. But if they win, I think you keep the status quo. You get better. They spent big money on Hartenstein because they were ready. That was them going all in. Everyone thought they have to spend all these picks, and that would be them going all in. But they just spent the money when they needed to. They got Caruso for Giddy. I would basically keep the core I have as best as I can. Obviously, when you have to extend a couple of the guys that are on rookie deals, it'll be tough. But I would just keep extending those picks and young guys. Like if someone wants Usman Jang for a future first, great, take him. We'll extend it out. We'll have another pick in the future to a point where if you ever do have to reset or you ever do lose out on a J Dub or a Chet to free agency or the trade market, you have all those future picks. You basically just keep resetting them and keep resetting them. It's kind of like fantasy football, like dynasty football, if anyone out there plays it. Like you keep resetting the picks until it's actually time where you need to use them.
The Pacers have the 23rd pick in this year's NBA draft. Based on what you've seen from this team so far in their playoff run, what position do you think they need to address, number one? And based on that position, who do you like for them at 23?
Yeah, I think there's an aspect of best player available when you're a team that is in the finals. Like you just say, you know what, let's. That's what the Thunder have been doing. That's how they got there. Like they're a good example of that. I'd probably go in the front court with some kind of size. You guys have had a bunch of guys over the last 2 years that like Thomas Bryant has given you some minutes here and there, like even Tony Bradley, but like you need to have sturdy guys. You need to have guys you can build with and develop. I don't know if that's a true center, depends on who's available. I like Maxime Reynaud a ton. He also resembles Miles Turner a little bit, where he's more offensive based, even though Miles has become a really good defender. Reynaud can shot block. He's suspect at times. I think Danny Wolf would be really interesting. I think guys like Asa Newell and more defensive guys, Thomas Sorber is really interesting if he's going to be there. But even if there are fours like Noah Senge, I don't know if he'll be there, international kid from France. I like him a lot. Even if there are bigger wings and forwards like Rasheer Fleming that are more 3 and D, I think size and athleticism and mostly front court. If a really good five is there, I'd go after it.
Yeah, I think Indiana's in a position where whoever's coming in might not be playing that much. You don't never know. Isaiah Jackson still coming off that Achilles tear. He could very well be coming back. So we'll see what happens there. But do you think it's the possibility to maybe draft a stash for 1 year, a guy that's not going to come over this year, or do you think Indiana could maybe even look to trade the pick, knowing that it's going to be tough to crack this rotation and get any meaningful minutes when you had a guy like Johnny Furphy, who very talented, we like him, but he was only getting really like the garbage minutes at the end of a game.
Yeah, I think the stash method I would say no to because, like I said, I think the team is good. They go deep, but I think there's guys that can crack the lineup. There's a couple of the bigs that I didn't mention. Ryan Kalkbrenner is a great example at a Creighton, 23, maybe too high, maybe not. Yannick Conan Niederhauser is a kid from Penn State who could definitely play in the NBA. Even Janai Broom from Auburn, like those guys are ready to play in the NBA. They're physically ready. Trading the pick, it depends who becomes available. Obviously, you don't want to just dump it for we'll get the best player available because then you end up getting a Jeremy Grant or something when you're like we just did it because he was the best guy on the board and on the trade block. So
All right, so I think me and you, did you pick Florida to win it all this year?
I did finally got one right.
I picked Florida to win it all too. And because Walter Clayton Jr. is mocked, close to where the Pacers are going to pick,
Yeah.
I'm curious, what do you think about his fit in Indiana, specifically with how they play with that fast-paced offense?
Wouldn't hate. I mean, impossible to hate that with exactly what you just said. Especially if he's there at 23, you grab him and go. He's gonna be the best player on the board if it's 23. Most likely, you grab him and go. It's funny you asked like what position of need. It's size, and I 100% front court, but Nemhard's not like this like super explosive guard, right? Obviously, TJ McConnell's not, and look at teams like the Celtics who have Peyton Pritchard coming off the bench and guys like that, and I think that's what Walter Clayton probably will end up being someone like that, which is great. I think everyone needs that, and because Nemhard has become a full-time starter, I wouldn't hate it at all, and he would fit so easily into the system. That boy can play right away and give you 20 in an NBA Finals game. So
Be interesting. Look, I think he's definitely done enough to be able to raise his draft stock. But come 2 years later, looking at it, Jarris Walker. I mean, obviously, someone that you spoke highly of, many people spoke highly of, hasn't had the biggest opportunity this year, far more of an opportunity than last year. But if we told you this is where Jarris would be 2 years from now, what would have surprised you back then?
well, I'll tell you this: it's great that we can like look back now because like I remember so vividly talking to you guys about Jarris and like even Furphy, obviously. But it's cool to be like, wow, that was already multiple years ago, multiple
Yeah,
drafts.
crazy.
Yeah, that's kind of crap.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was the Taylor Hendricks versus Jarris Walker conversation that
That was
week.
a big debate, and I haven't heard
wow.
anything about Taylor Hendricks.
Where did we come out on that? I don't remember.
I
I feel
think
like
Facci was Jarris Walker coming into it. I was
Yeah.
Taylor Hendricks, and you were more Jarris. And then
Yeah, I
I
think so.
convinced Facci to flip to Taylor Hendricks, and you
did.
stuck with Jarris. So you're the draft
Well,
expert, obviously.
well, it ends up not mattering either way for now, at least. Like, because
Up now. Yeah.
those are both. I like them both as people and all, but it hasn't worked out so well. I'd be surprised, for sure, just because he's so physically unbelievable. He was physically ready, in my opinion, at the time for the NBA, and he was coming from Houston. And I was like, there's just no way he doesn't play in the NBA right away for a little while. I still hold stock there. I still hold my stock over Taylor Hendricks for now. No disrespect to Taylor Hendricks, 'cause that's my guy too. But I'd be a little surprised for sure, and I'd be a little taken back. Or I would be like, maybe he's on a championship team, which you could argue is the case in a way, because if he's in Washington, he's probably playing half the game. So
Yeah,
Oh yeah, definitely. I've had people say, Bilal Coulibaly, like look what he's doing now. Look, you gave Jarris Walker an opportunity; he could definitely shine.
yeah,
To your point, I don't think a lot of people expected the Pacers to go on this back-to-back conference finals run, NBA championship type of scenario. So yeah, that's definitely going to set a player back.
yeah.
Last one for me. You talked about how much you love Andrew Nemhard. His brother Ryan Nemhard climbing up the rankings. Wasn't invited to the original, draft camp, whatever, the draft combine, but works his way in with the G League play. So, what do you think about Ryan Nemhard? Where do you think he ends up falling to? I guess you could say in this draft class.
Yeah, well, he is someone who has benefited a lot from NIL money, because not because he's getting it, because everyone's going back to college. So that helps him in his draft stock. I think he's definitely going to get drafted. I'm not going to spill out a bunch of personal information. I had him on. We were talking for a while the other day. But I know his agent said that he's been working out with, I want to say it's going to be up to 17, 18 different teams by the time draft night comes. He's been on the road. He's going to be on the road for the next 2 weeks still. I know he's going to get drafted. He's worth a draft pick regardless of his last name. He's way too good of a playmaker and way too good of a player not to get drafted. I know he's small and there are concerns, but he's so smart. He knows how to play as a smaller guard. And I think if you're the Pacers, you guys have like 50 something. Like, I mean, if he's there at 50, whatever, you got to just grab him for, even if you didn't want him for the Nemhard family name. But I think he'll be gone a little before that for sure, because I truly believe he'll be in an NBA rotation at some point.
Hey, this is the team that had Tyler Hansbrough and Ben Hansbrough. But look, Ben Hansbrough, maybe not an NBA player. Ryan Netmark, definitely far more of an NBA player.
We've had a lot of brothers: Kareem Rush and Brandon Rush.
That we have.
Are
Aaron
they brothers?
Holiday,
But
Aaron
no.
Holiday and Justin Holiday.
What
Yeah.
what pick do you guys have? 50 what? 50 something?
54.
52, maybe.
All right, so you
Four.
just trade up,
Four.
add that in a future second, get to like 40, and just go grab him.
They
Hey.
should. I mean, he'd be a great G League point guard for him. They don't really have.
He would
No.
be amazing.
They got Tristan Newton last year, and then they ended up cutting him halfway through the season. Because
Wait, what about my guy Ray J? Come on.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's all we can say. Yeah.
haven't really seen a lot of them, to be honest.
All right, I promise Ray J's the real deal. He's nice.
Okay. Better than Nemhard?
Enough time.
No, he's not better than him. Ryan Nemhard or
Ryan.
Andrew Nemhard?
Ryan.
Yeah.
That's a good question, because Ray J played very well in the G League when he was playing too.
Yeah, he did.
I would take Ray J as of right now, because I've seen him play pro basketball.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Well, hey, we want to get you out of here on time, Ryan. We definitely appreciate your coverage. I think that you always do an incredible job, and we might have to have you back on right before the draft happens, because that could be a whole nother topic. Like, I feel like we could have dove a lot deeper into this, but hey, NBA Finals, you know what we got going on right now. So Ryan, please plug some of your content and everything you got going on, because you do some awesome work.
For sure. I appreciate your kind words. Appreciate you guys having me on as always, and I wish you nothing but the best in these finals games. I know you guys seem mellow right now. I will say that you seem good.
I'll tell you one thing. I'm going out there for game 3. I'm going to be there in the building. Alex and I are going to record only our second podcast ever together in person. So that could be electric. There ain't going to be nothing mellow about that. I think
Unless
right
we
now,
lose really bad.
this is the calm before the
I'm
storm.
I'm getting you in between games and stuff, but
Exactly.
but I'll be tapped out. You guys do awesome stuff also. Like, you guys are the go-to Pacers people for me, and even beyond that for sure. So, but yeah, Ryan Hammer, whatever, wherever you want to find it. If you search my name, it's a non-competitive space with my name. Thank God. So
Awesome stuff. Well, hey, we look forward to having you back on, and good luck with this draft season.
Thanks, man.
Joining us now on Setting the Pace, he is a longtime Pacers beat writer for Indie Sports Legends and one of our favorites, one of our former co-hosts of the show. It is Tyler Smith. Tyler, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
How cool is this? This is coming up on the middle of June, and we're still talking about the Pacers in the finals. How amazing. It's just, there's nothing better than this. It's really cool.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely awesome, and so it's been a lot of fun being able to be at all these playoff games with you and experience this run to the NBA Finals for the first time in 25 years. But this series right now, it is all tied up at 1-1. The Pacers, they go into game one, never have the lead, but Tyrese Haliburton comes through in the clutch once again, gives the Pacers their first lead with 0.3 tenths of a second left. They had the lead for about a minute 55 in game two, and that was it. So in a total of 96 minutes, they've led for about 94. Does that make you a little bit concerned about the way this series might end up going?
A little bit. I mean, you can really look at this one of two ways. OKC has clearly dominated these first two games, but it really depends on how you look at it. I mean, number one, it could just be that the Thunder are that much better and they should still be highly favored. Or on the optimistic side, we know the Thunder are much better at home, at least in these playoffs. And the fact that Indy was able to steal one still gives them a fighting chance. So that could be a situation where they look back on that one game and they say that was the gift that Indy was able to make this a series. And if the Pacers can protect home court at least a little bit, like let's say they win 2 out of 3 of these home games that are coming up before the next games 3, 4, and 6. If they win 2 of 3, they get 2 more shots in OKC to win the title because of that gift of game one. So obviously some concern with how those games have gone and the amount of time OKC has led. But as you know, things can be quite different in a different building.
No, that's for sure. And I loved your tweet after the game because you kind of highlighted what the Thunder have done in the playoffs on the road. And so I think from what you tweeted out, their biggest margin of victory is a 6-point win. They've
Yeah.
lost by 40 on the road. They've lost by double digits, I think, one more time other than that. This has not been a great team on the road. And so I'm curious, does that give you, the sliver of hope that Indiana could potentially not just win one game here, but maybe two?
It really does. That's the thing that I've probably thought about the most since the game two beatdown is the fact that the Thunder have been very human on the road in these playoffs. They're 4-3 in the 7 games, no blowout wins, blown out a couple times. Actually, one of their wins was a big comeback when John Morant, I believe, went out. I think a fan pointed that out. So they haven't really had that dominate from start to finish like they so often do at home. So if Indy, I mean, everything comes down to this game 3 on Wednesday. If the Pacers are able to win for obvious reasons, it puts them up 2-1, but it also would completely swing a lot of the belief, a lot of the confidence for a lot of people. And it would also set up just this unbelievable opportunity in game 4 for Indy to kind of go for the kill, put themselves one step closer. So that's the hope, is that they reverse the game 3 curse and come out on fire and win, and then all of a sudden it becomes it'll open some eyes. It'll absolutely be a series if the Pacers can win that game. But if OKC remains fairly human, they're still good, but fairly human on the road, then the Pacers have a shot.
Well, who do you think is going to step up the most at home for Indiana? Because it's difficult to play on the road, especially in that environment. But maybe is there a player or two that you think does better at home than they do on the road?
Well, in this season, Halliburton his splits were a lot better at home. Playoffs has kind of been hit or miss. Of course, again, some of those game threes when the Pacers were up 2-0 didn't play as well. Had a couple of his clunkers in those game threes, but I think he's more comfortable there. I just think overall the team as a unit feels comfortable with their energy, with rebounds, with those corner threes when the fans kind of rise up with the shot. It's just one of those things. Like, again, it's kind of a hard team to predict because there's so many guys that can score and on a given night kind of go off. But I would say Halliburton's going to benefit from this, and then I think just overall the guards and the shooters on the team.
Yeah, I feel like Obi Toppin usually plays better at home than he does on the road. I know he had a really good road game in game one against New York, and then obviously against the Thunder had a pretty good game one as well. But aside from that, I feel like on the road he's been kind of hit or miss, but at home he's been one of those guys that really, he gets energized from the crowd when he has those big dunks when he's able to get out in transition. But getting out in transition has been a problem for the Pacers against this Thunder team. Do you think being at home could play a factor into them maybe getting out and running a little bit more?
I think so. I mean, as loud as the building was in game 6 over the Knicks, like I just can't even imagine what this environment's going to be like, especially if Indy comes out and even hits a couple of those early shots. Like it's going to be deafening, and you just can't help but feed off of that. I mean, it's hard to even like tell the fans if they're watching on TV what it's like in the building. And so I think every aspect of the game, because it's a team that feeds off each other, off energy, and off the crowd. So I think every aspect of the game could be aided by that crowd.
When you look back at game two, what did you feel like was the biggest difference maker and kept the Pacers from making it a competitive game?
I know they rebounded a lot better in game one. I feel like the OKC had a bit of a adjustment with how the Pacers wanted to spread the ball. Obviously, Pacers didn't turn the ball over as much. They had decent numbers as far as assists to turnovers, still not at the level they like, but when you're playing Oklahoma, it was decent. But Oklahoma, the role players, speaking of what can happen on your home court, when those role players are shooting like that, I mean, it's just a impossible team to beat at times. So hopefully Indy kind of gets a little bit of that on their home court, but that one stretch, if there's anything they probably hopefully learned from that game is you can't relax for even 3 minutes against this team because it's a team that one run that sunk them. Haliburton goes out, they're down one. Next thing you know, it's 15, 17-point game, and they're too good to every single game claw back from that. So they made some adjustments. They punched back, and it was too much that run in the second quarter for Indy to overcome.
When you look at this Pacers roster, right, like with the rotation has been pretty much consistent in terms of Carlisle going deeper into his bench, usually playing 9 or 10 guys at times, and I think with OKC it's just a lot harder to do that because of how good they are defensively. Are there any other adjustments you'd like to see Carlisle make for this game 3?
Well, one thing that's been like the calling card of this coaching staff and this team has been the adjustments coming after a loss. It's been when this game is played, it'll have been 3 months since they've lost back-to-back games. I think they're 11-0 when they respond from a double-digit loss. The challenging thing is you're playing a team that's so good defensively and likes to run as well. You want to get that rest in because guys are going to be more effective when they're in after getting some rest. But when Haliburton's out that long and OKC's going on this huge run and it's too much to overcome, I would like to see them tighten up the minutes, the rotation a little bit, especially because you've got 3 days in between most of these games, except for 3 and 4. So I would I would consider playing more minutes for Haliburton, Siakam, certain combinations, always making sure there's at least one guy that you trust on the court. And I mean, I don't envy the process and the decision making. You take a guy, look at McConnell, a guy that can go on a heater at any given time, but can also really struggle at times. And, team goes on a 10-0 run or whatever it is. Like, you just have to be perfect with your decision making for these rotations when you're playing a team of this caliber. So I would tighten it up a little bit, but I understand that you still have to utilize your strength and what's kind of got you here.
Yeah, that's a tough part because it's like, okay, if I feel like I need to cut, X player out of the rotation or limit his minutes, all of a sudden he gets going in game 3. Do I, go with my game plan of, hey, I'm going to try to limit his minutes to 5 to 7 minutes per game or extend it to 8 to 12, or do I overextend it? And then all of a sudden that run that he had was just for those 5 minutes, and I probably should have went back to maybe some of my starters or things like that. But I think one of the things that I've noticed, at least from the first 2 games, I feel like you got to have at least Nimhard or Haliburton on the floor at all times. I think having a secondary ball handler out there is just going to be imperative when you're playing this OKC team because the way I've kind of seen things, I think Nembhard really kind of changed the script in that first game there in that fourth quarter when he was able to get into the teeth of the defense. Had that nice Rondo pivot where he threw it out to Obi Toppin for a three, and then just kind of got things going because Haliburton is not a physical type of player where he's going to do that, but we know Haliburton can still spread the floor and make the right pass, which does make him very lethal as a player. So I just think with those two guys being able to do that, McConnell to me, like if McConnell is not on ball and he is spreading out the floor, you can see OKC already doesn't care about the corners that much, but especially if TJ McConnell's in the corner, I'll give McConnell credit. He's been at least taking those threes, and he's made some of them the last couple of games. So I do respect him for that. I think he's put in the work to like keep trying to figure out ways to make them pay for leaving him open. But I mean, he's taken like 10 seconds to shoot it, so it's still like it's not like he's worked on rushing the shot. But what are your thoughts on maybe playing Nembhard and Haliburton, at least having one of them on the floor the entirety of the game?
Yeah, I'm for it. I mean, you just have to do whatever it takes to protect the ball. Another challenge with this matchup is that the Thunder oftentimes they kind of feed off of teams that like to move the ball as far as getting the passing lanes, getting in the gaps, creating those turnovers. But the Pacers want to play to their strengths as well. So I think having one of those guys on the court at all times, maybe limiting McConnell's minutes a little bit if he's not working it, and then maybe give him another chance in the third quarter where he often has some of his runs. So yeah, I'd be all for that. They got to find ways to get Siakam going. I know they tried to get him in the post, and I don't know if you saw that one exchange with Haliburton and Siakam where Siakam said, I'm trying, and Haliburton says, keep working, I'll get you the ball. They got to find a way to get into the teeth of that defense and utilize Siakam in those moments. But definitely agree with you, keeping one of those guys on the court.
Yeah, I just think they need that much ball handling out there and playmaking because if they don't, like it's not great. And Mathurin is not the guy that you want out there being a playmaker. It's just not who he is. He's a scorer. I thought he looked great with that catch and shoot three that he hit in the corner, even when he was kind of fading out. Like if he could just be that decisive with his decisions, I think that would really help the Pacers out offensively. But not putting the blame on him, I'm just saying I think that could help them out. But we saw the Thunder go more double big at times with Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren. They did kind of change their starting five to a smaller starting five with Case and Wallace and for Hartenstein. After the way the first two games have gone, do you expect the Thunder to make a change in Game 3?
Probably not, just because they had success there in that game 2. Even though they didn't get off to a great start, Pacers were right there, and as you said, led for a little bit of the game. I'd be surprised. I guess not totally shocked because it's the lineup they've used a lot that they switched, but it makes me think too of when they make some switches, if they're not going big and they play small for a bit. I've seen some fans kind of asking for more Toppin minutes in those moments, but Turner's been impactful even when he's not scored a lot. He was a +8 in game 1, which means -7 with him off, and then game 2 he was just a -4. So what is that, -13 or whatever when he's off? So Pacers need him on the court, but if they're going double big, then obviously when they go small, I think there's still ways to utilize him.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they do because if the Pacers can get off to a hot start with that small ball lineup, I think it might be beneficial. I know Jalen Williams has been given a lot of credit for what he's done defensively. I think he made defensive team, all second defensive team, and some people even argue that he could have maybe made the first team. I think that with the way Siakam plays, he can take advantage of Jalen Williams. I just felt like they didn't do it enough in that game too, and I think you got to give OKC a ton of credit for how they were able to muck things up and really just kind of collapse on that and kind of force the pass where they wanted Pascal to catch it, which would also lead into potential double teams and things like that, just making it very uncomfortable. But the one time he did get a post up, right, SGA pulls the chair, and it's just like very smart move by SGA, but like they didn't go back to him after that down in the post. I mean, he got some fouls, but I think that Jalen Williams is someone they could attack a little bit more. And maybe this is just me speaking in the moment, and I'm curious your thoughts, but as a number 2 guy, I don't feel like Jalen Williams has been that impressive.
Yeah, and I'm even more trying to think of what word to use. Very, very intrigued to see not only what the role players for the Thunder do on the road in the NBA Finals, but also Williams, because we know he's a fantastic player, two-way player. but for most of these playoffs, the moment has not been too big for most of these guys, even though they went to 7 with Denver. But NBA Finals on the road with this crowd will some of these guys, they've all got W in their name, Wiggins, Wallace, Williams. Will they struggle a little bit on the road? And I'm talking defensively as well. So if the Pacers, if Carlisle and the staff can find even one or two things to kind of unlock both Haliburton and Siakam, they find one little crack in that Thunder defense and they get going and they come out and hit some early shots, get some early post ups and scores, and the place is going nuts. Thunder call a timeout. Then it's kind of like, all right, series on. Let's see what they can build off from this. But Williams and those role players, let's see if they can carry this on the road on the biggest stage in the game.
Last one for me. Do you have anything else that you think the Pacers should do adjustment wise that I haven't brought to your attention?
I would say just the obvious, like they need more from Halliburton and Siakam. I think they'll get it. Will it be enough? We'll see. But we've documented and talked like crazy all season long. You don't necessarily need Halliburton to have a 35-point game, but you need him to not disappear. So it's definitely in there. It's a very difficult team to get to the paint and to figure out how to find those cracks. But I trust the staff in these few days off here to figure out how that's going to work. Halliburton had a lot of shots, a lot of middies he could have taken, a lot of shots, near the paint at least that he could have put up. But when he shoots the ball 15 or more times, or when he scores 20 or more points, this team is nearly unbeatable. So it may sound very obvious, but to me, that's the key. Role players often play better at home in the playoffs. So you need your stars to step up, carry the way. SGA is going to have huge numbers. So Halliburton and Siakam got to find a way to unlock them and get them going.
Yeah, just to kind of follow up on that, because I feel like the conversation around Halliburton is so tough to have because the people that don't watch the Pacers regularly, they see him as the face of the franchise, the number one guy, and he's got to drop 30 points or match SGA for them to have a chance. And that's just not how the Pacers play. That's just not who they are. And I feel like if you kind of look at the way Halliburton's built, this is not a guy that's physically built like a Donovan Mitchell, like a Jalen Brunson, like a Giannis, right? He's not one of those guys that's going to just plow through you and get to the basket. He's a finesse player that's a playmaker first. And so you talk about the points. I mean, 20 points for a star is not that many, right? That's a pretty low bar in terms of star scoring. But I just think that the way he impacts the game is so hard to discuss because he's not a guy that's just going to take shots to take shots. It's just not who he is. And now there are times where he does, and maybe that does benefit the Pacers when he's a little bit more aggressive like that. But I just felt like he was not really forcing a lot in this game. I felt like the shots that he did kind of take, especially before the fourth quarter, they weren't great looks. I mean, he hit the 1-3, but a lot of those other threes that he took were kind of quick. And he's not a guy that's usually just pulling up real quick and hitting a 3-point shot. Like, he kind of has to line it up and kind of take his time. So he's not like TJ McConnell slow, but I mean, he does take a few minutes to get it lined up. The narrative around Halliburton and just how people kind of perceive him as a player, do you feel like the criticism is fair when people say, he needs to do way more than what he's doing?
I would say at times, just because of the amount of times that it does come across as kind of a no-show, is more often than you would like. But I'm not one to overreact on like, hey, they're up 3-1 in a series and he has a rough game 5 when I'm thinking he's going to go off in game 6 and clinch a series. And he's already been the reason for the lead in the series. I'm not going to freak out over the occasional no-show, but you would like him to be a little more aggressive at times. He will admit that always. I do like how 2 or 3 times in these playoffs he has said the words, Coach Carlisle's like a savant when it comes to adjustments. So they look to the savant in these few days off here before game 3. And even if it's not the 30, 35-point night because of how good this defense is, if he can assert himself and even get 8 to 10 points per half, hit a couple big shots, and still do his normal thing with assists, then that's going to be the effort this team needs. But I think most of it's crazy talk, not calling him a superstar just because he doesn't have the bag that some prototypical superstars have off the dribble. He is so very clearly two-time All-NBA, amazing star player who happens to be in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, and he's led his team to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals as well. Like, very young career too. And like, just look at where the Pacers were just a few years ago. They're in the draft lottery trying to see if they're going to move up. Halliburton's there sitting on stage, hoping the Pacers can get Victor Wembanyama. And then, of course, they fall back to 8. Halliburton looks like he has no idea what to do on stage, and they get Jarris Walker. Or they fell to 7. I think they trade back to 8 and get Jarris Walker. I mean, just honestly, like, just the turnaround this team has had in the last 2 years is absolutely remarkable. And so I feel like sometimes the expectations for Halliburton have gone through the roof. And I guess it's kind of deserved when you do have the accolades that he does have. But yeah, it's just totally different. Like, he's not an SGA type player. It's just not who he is. And I
Yeah.
feel like people expecting him to be something he's not is just a little bit ridiculous. So, I've definitely voiced my opinions on social media about Screaming A. Smith. I just every time you turn on Twitter or YouTube or anything, there it is. Halliburton's not a superstar. Or this is what Halliburton did in Game 2, and this is why he's a fraud. Like, come on, I mean, get a life, dude.
Yeah.
Figure
I
something
mean,
else
even
out
the
to talk
stuff with
about.
like Brunson today with Knicks fans on Twitter, just like obviously Brunson's a fantastic scorer. They're different players,
Yeah.
and Halliburton has won both series. And Brunson missed the game tying threes in both game 1 and game 2, and then it disappeared in game 4 of game 6. So it's like, yeah, he can put up 30 in his sleep, but there's so much more to the game that we've obviously seen. And you wonder why the Pacers keep winning and keep winning series. Look no further than the franchise guy who's running the show.
Yeah, and look, and if he's having a bad game and you're talking crap about him and you're around his girlfriend, she's gonna let you have it. I mean, I
That's
thought that
right.
was an awesome video to see her out there chewing out some OKC fans, and I love the energy. I mean, that's the complete opposite of a front runner. So if Tyrese is a front runner, I don't know what you'd call that, but I love that she was out there just whatever she was saying, she was getting passionate. I don't know what she was saying. I don't know if it was about Tyrese or not. I'm assuming it was, but I love the passion from Jade. I thought it was great, and it made me smile to see that she was out there chirping with OKC fans. I mean, this is an OKC fan base that loves their team, but man, Adam Silver and a random former football player are the celebrities out there in OKC. I think Indiana might have a little bit more celebs on the red carpet for game 3.
Yeah, imagine if Chuck Lofton comes to this one. That's still the biggest star of.
Oh man, Chuck Lofton, shout out. Is he retiring at the end of the year, or is he like coming up soon on his retirement? I didn't
I
see when
think
it
so.
was.
I don't know if it's his last year, like the summer, or like one more go. Like I'm not sure, but I know
Yeah.
it's coming soon.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of people like send videos and things like that. So shout out Chuck Lofton. We love Chuck Lofton over here. WTHR does a great job as a weatherman, and I've enjoyed following him on Twitter as well. So Chuck Lofton is a great weatherman, and of course a great sport. Did not take the Jimmy Fallon comment personal, and thought it was pretty hilarious when they were talking Hicks versus Knicks. So Tyler, this has been a lot of fun talking Pacers basketball. We're in the finals. I mean, what is there not to be excited about? So you'll be in the building for games 3 and 4. I'll be in the buildings for games 3 and 4. Highly likely that we're sitting by each other or close to one another, so we'll be able to enjoy these games together. But where can people find all of your work at on social media and on Twitter? Or I guess I should say online, not Twitter. What am I
Yeah.
saying?
Twitter is Tyler Smith _ISL, IndySportsLegends.com, Journal Review out of Crawfordsville. And let me just say too, there's a lot of people that for this run that I am happy for, like the fans that I talk to after games, the fans that I've texted for years, the frustrations, all of that. And also, you guys at setting the pace for all your hard work for years. It's amazing to here in mid-June to not just be talking about the upcoming draft, but to be covering the team in the finals. So happy for you guys, all the fans, everyone that's put in the work and has watched. No matter what happens, this is quite a ride.
You wrote a feature piece on a loyal fan that stands outside of where the Pacers exit the arena every game, where the staff exits the arena. Can you give us a little bit more of like a teaser on that?
Yeah, he goes by Vivian Whitfield. I call him Whitfield. Some guys call him Paul out there. He goes by a million names. But most of you, if you go to any games, you probably have seen him always yelling Pacers. And he's out there in rain, sleet, sunshine, blizzard, doesn't matter. After every game, win or loss, saying good game to the players and coaches. A lot of them roll their windows down and talk to him. But very, very passionate fan. I think I met him in 2019 is when the original story came out. So he's out there every game and buys tickets and is up there with the drummers. So when the camera pans over, you can see him dancing with the drummers
There
up
we
there.
go.
One of the best, and another person that very happy for this run.
Yeah, I mean, every time I leave the arena, there he is. He's yelling Pacers, and so it makes me laugh when he does it. And so I will say that I have adapted that at work. There is a New York Knicks fan at my work who was ready to talk some smack to me before the series started and then during the series. And after the Pacers went up, 3-1, I just walked by him at work and said, Pacers. That's all I said. Didn't say anything else. I was like, I'm not going to rub it in, but I'm just going to give him a little Paces. And he just started laughing. So great stuff there, Tyler. I do always appreciate your work. And Pacer Nation, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of Setting the Pace. In the first segment, we had on Ryan Hammer and Facci and enjoyed that conversation on a little draft. And then close things out here with Tyler Smith. So if you guys don't know where to find us at, we're at PacersPod STP on all social media platforms. And we're over at YouTube, youtube.com/Setting the Pace, a Pacers podcast. With that being said, we'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Got the group chat guys coming back on for a lengthy episode there. So hopefully you guys look forward to that. And you know how we end this show. Let's go Pacers.